Settle in, because this one's a long ride. I'm going to tell this the way I remember it, because even now, years later, every single part of it still feels way too clear in my head. Whenever someone suggests playing hide and seek at night, or I walk past a narrow alley that smells like damp trash and old brick, this is the story that creeps back up on me. It all started in early October. The air had that cold edge to it, the kind that makes everything feel a little more dramatic. Siblings and I were heading to our mom's apartment for a weekend visit. My parents had divorced a couple years earlier, and we didn't get to see her much, so every visit felt special. There's my older sister Jess, then my two brothers Mike and Eli, and me, right in the middle of all of it. My mom lived in a rough part of town, not the kind of place you'd willingly wander through at night. Her building sat beside a long, narrow alley that doubled as a side entrance to the apartment complex. The area was packed with buildings, but somehow it always felt weirdly empty, like even when people were around, it felt abandoned. You wouldn't even notice her place unless you drove down this dark alley that looked like it led nowhere good. Her apartment was on the second floor, and despite the outside looking sketchy, inside it felt warm and safe. Soft couches, random decorations, everywhere. That cozy, slightly cluttered vibe that reminded me of my grandma's house. We loved going there. And the best part, the kids downstairs. A boy and a girl, I'll call them Zach and Chi-Chi. We'd met them during a previous visit and instantly clicked. Zach and I would mess around in the parking lot, playing tag or pretending to be cops and robbers. That night, since Halloween was around the corner, Zach had this genius idea. Let's play hide and seek outside. At night, of course, we all thought that sounded awesome. Spooky lighting, shadows everywhere, the orange glow from the street lamps. So we made a plan. At 9 sharp, we'd sneak out of our rooms and meet in the parking lot. By 9, it was fully dark. The lampposts cast this rusty orange light across the pavement, but the corners of the building were swallowed in shadow. We did that little counting game to pick the seeker, and Zach ended up being it. As he started counting, we all scattered. Jess grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the back of the building. There were these huge trash bins back there, and to get to them you had to walk down that long alley until you reached the far end of the building. We figured it was the perfect hiding spot. No way anyone would come all the way down there. At first, hiding was exciting. We crouched between trash bags and metal bins, trying not to giggle. But after a few minutes, the excitement faded. It was just quiet. Too quiet. Just the distant hum of the city and the faint rustle of wind. I started whispering that maybe we hid too well. Jess smirked and told me to chill. Then we decided to move. We stepped out from behind the bins and into the middle of the alley, and that's when everything in me just dropped. At the far end, side of the alley, under the dim overhead light, there was someone standing there, tall, way taller than anyone I knew. The light hit from above, casting their face in shadow, but I could see their hair, big, round, like an afro, and colorful, like one of those clown wigs. My brain tried to make sense of it. It wasn't even Halloween yet. Why would someone be dressed like that? The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, staring directly at us. Jess grabbed my arm so tight it hurt and whispered that we needed to go. We backed up slowly and hurried down the alley toward the parking lot. We found Mike and Chi-Chi first. They were confused, thinking we were still playing. We told them about the clown. They looked skeptical at first, but when we pointed toward the alley, the clown was closer and waving. That's when we saw its face, or at least what was supposed to be its face. It wasn't normal clown makeup. It looked blacked out, like the person didn't want their features visible. The only thing clear were the eyes, watching us. Then Chi-Chi screamed. We spun around, and she pointed behind us. There was another one, another clown, this one with green hair and even longer legs. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the world. We didn't think, we just ran. Chi-Chi bolted to her apartment. We sprinted upstairs to ours. Inside, Eli was already with Mom. He looked pale. Turns out he'd had his own run-in. He'd been hiding in the courtyard when he heard footsteps. He thought it was Zach, so he stayed hidden. But when he peeked, he saw someone step into view. Before he could react, he heard Zach calling his name from somewhere else. That's when Eli realized the person near him wasn't part of the game. When he looked up, a clown was staring down at him. Mom hugged all of us so tight. We told her everything. She believed us, and I really wish that was the end of it. Later that night, I woke up thirsty. The apartment was dark and quiet. I went to the kitchen for water. As I opened the fridge, I heard a faint tapping sound, like something brushing against the window, which made zero sense. We were on the second floor. Got up to that window, climbed, used the fire escape. I don't know, but after that night, hide and seek in the dark was ruined forever. Now the second story happened when I was 11. Different place, different year, but still October. My middle school sat across from this old, beat-up house that looked like it had been rotting for decades. Paint peeling, windows grimy, porch sagging. My friends would joke about it on the walk home. I'd tell them to like. Then one afternoon, about a week before Halloween, I saw someone standing on the porch, tall silhouette, watching me walk by. I tried to act normal, just keep walking, don't show fear. But as soon as I passed, the figure suddenly rushed down the steps and started chasing me. I didn't think, I just ran. I could hear him behind me, shouting nonsense, closing the distance. I darted into an alley and hid behind a dumpster, holding my breath. His footsteps came closer. I could hear him muttering to himself. I swear I could hear his breathing. Then, silence and footsteps retreating. I waited before running home. My dad called the police. The next day, they told us the house had been vacant for years. No one officially lived there. They assumed a squatter or homeless man had been staying inside. That thought didn't make me feel better. It made it worse. And then there's the third story. This one happened years later, in rural Poland. I used to take my dog Susie out every evening. There was this quiet road between a forest and an old stable near a church. One night in October, Susie started barking like crazy at the tree line. That's when I saw him. A man in white, kneeling behind the stable, completely still, facing my direction. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't moving, just kneeling, watching. I dragged Susie away. Later that night, sirens wailed for half an hour. The next morning, we learned the stable had been set on fire. They said it was probably teenagers, but I know what I saw. That person looked calm, patient, and finally, last October, I went to a pumpkin patch with friends. Near the edge of the woods, I saw what I thought was a scarecrow, but it was too thin, too still, and then it moved, not walking, not running, gliding. It followed us toward the edge of the trees, but stopped when we reached the crowd. Later, someone else reported seeing a strange figure there. I don't know what it is about October, about shadows and early sunsets, and the way cold air makes everything feel sharper. But every year, when the leaves start falling, I remember the clown outside the window, the empty house across from school, the man in white kneeling in the dark, and the figure in the pumpkin patch that didn't move like a person should. Maybe they're all coincidences. Maybe they're not connected at all. But sometimes I wonder, how many times have we been watched in the dark and just didn't notice?